Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question that is inquiring about how to understand the role, once again, of self-limiting negative beliefs that keep you stuck in relationships that are not aligned with your best interest, that keep you stuck in tolerating disrespect, that keep you stuck in tolerating pathological lying. This is oftentimes at the hands of someone who is either malignant, narcissist, or psychopathic. And especially the question was to explore a little bit more in depth the role of someone who is exemplifying of psychopathy, particularly that of engaging in high-risk behaviors, which creates sort of a real tight or potent bond with this person, meaning this person might have taken you to places that you've never gone, either romantically, socially, financially, etc., or even in the job. They might have sort of taken your life in a new direction. They have done things that really got your attention. They got your ear, they got your heart, they got your gut, they got you doing things. And you didn't realize that there was a parasitic nature involved. Particularly that with psychopathy, these individuals will really target people. They will target and they will kind of scope out and keep them in your view or in their view in order to get what it is that they want. The problem is that what you think they want isn't what they're getting. There is something ulterior beyond really your awareness and oftentimes even your ability to comprehend and make sense, because physiologically you could not do the same thing to another, particularly that of being destructive, particularly that of being damaging, particularly that of being insensitive, meaning not sensitive at all. And it's not oftentimes in an overt sort of bullying manner that these people make their inroads into getting people hooked or addicted or trauma bonded, essentially, is to understand that the reason why is because when they break people down and getting them to cross a line, a finish line or a boundary that hitherto you have not crossed in yourself, particularly that of quote unquote adventurousness, under the guise of being adventuresome, being a go-getter, being a risk taker, slowly getting you, beyond your comfort zone and your limits. So it has the inclination, or what a lot of people in the name of love or being enthralled or being sort of even mesmerized by this person, being sort of in this sort of dazed, perception, which oftentimes is very numbing. But that state where people are sort of in awe or shock and awe by this person, either usually on the positive side. I can't, this person handles something so well, or this person has great strides in business, or romantically, they get me on fire. It's just, all the da. It's to understand that oftentimes there's something deep inside that allows you to miss the red flags, that allows you to hear your own gut instinct and act on it. You know what, this might not be such a good idea. You know, this might be a little risky. It becomes the weighing of the back and forth that then people then will weigh their decision in favor of the psychopathic thought pattern, which oftentimes is really sort of impregnated, if you will, meaning it has the potential to take people to become really their own enemy, but being aroused or incited by an experience which is counterintuitive. I know this sounds very deep, but it's a very sophisticated and intricate and oftentimes very scary place to be, because it goes and it takes control of those negative self-limiting beliefs, which you don't understand or you're not aware of how they're alive and working in you, that allow you to have this sort of relationship and allow it to continue. Particularly, that of, if we look at a couple different examples, particularly in business or romance, or even familial, situations, people have a value system, meaning something that they are impassioned by or feel good about or moral. This oftentimes is a societal norm, a societal law, a certain boundary. We do this, we don't do that. We do this, we don't do that. And then a psychopath, because of the way that they're wired, because of their mindset, because they don't really feel things emotionally, especially the abstract, freedom, love, the sublime, patriotism. We're talking about, loyalty, abstracts that you might experience on a daily basis that are the fuel of your life. Really, your beliefs really are fueling everything. And, no matter how many layers it is underneath, there is something about your mindset and your belief system which has allowed this to take place. And it can be oftentimes interpreted towards the positive, particularly in the love bombing phase. This person is so unique. This person is so strong. This person is so sensual. This person isn't inhibited by fear. They're so fearless. They're so adventurous. I've never experienced something like this before. Usually there's all these sort of, experiences that go along with the love bombing stage. But very important is to understand that there is a grooming taking place in these relationships, particularly with the female psychopath, and preying on a male's inner needs to be manly, the provider, to feel as the man, masculine, being larger, being, the one who can open the door, the one who can give, provide, all these different things, particularly, either intimately or, physically, whether it's fixing things, whatever it is. Oftentimes they will, make one feel those needs which are based on one's self-limiting beliefs, which hitherto maybe have not been activated or kind of lived or experienced in your life, and sort of, coming from that place. So in the love bombing phase, it feels like this perfect mesh and match. In other words, this person satisfies my wants as well as my needs, and everything is hunky-dory. There's usually a breaking down, though, that comes with that gets one to break down, but it's in the guise of sort of an elation, if you will. Elating meaning this is just like a fairy tale. And then it gets with those people who particularly have had it good in life, who haven't had a lot of struggle, who have built up a lot of great experiences, a great reputation, a great title for themselves, a great place in society, a great place in their job. They have everything going for them. Nothing will ever happen to me. These can be negative self-limiting beliefs. In other words, you don't see it coming. And the psychopath will take an angle, particularly on these people, in order to break them down and to show them what's up, particularly their what's up. You think it's the two of you is what's up, but it's really them. And it's to understand that they don't experience the same abstracts, but they will put a guise, a facade, a persona as if they do. So, becoming, this, especially in the psychopathic gaze, they can get people very transfixed, very mesmerized. The reptilian psychopathic gaze, which can feel very seductive, even in situations where seduction is not appropriate, in the boardroom, in a meeting, at your workplace, at family functions, at family, it's just not appropriate. In public, certain, public places, they can cross the line, sneak in this, sneak in that, which seems exciting, seems enthralling. Once again, particularly in the female psychopath, they seem to have this balance of character. And, a lot of men feel, a lot of, masculinity or arise in that sort of feeling that, here's this perfect woman and they feel very desirable. And not to say that in normal relationships that isn't the case, which it is, but there's a specific sort of element that goes with the psychopathic relationships, which means all those positive aspects of you, which you're hoping the psychopath will get to know and appreciate and admire and help to cultivate and and groom and to keep as part of sort of what's keeping the relationship intact, is that oftentimes which the female psychopath is targeting for your dismay, for one's destruction, for one's downward connection, or even not even relating to within themselves anymore. In other words, there is a psychological mindset which a psychopath can prey upon in others, which gets people to turn on themselves and become sort of very twisted, distorted, perverted. And it is not a usual, it's a very unusual, powerful state, which means there's something energetically which this person will, as a psychopath will say, will ooze out. There's an energy, a charisma. There is a sort of magnetism, literally a physical magnetism, which it seems to draw people's attention and oftentimes sort of take one's view and get a real sort of fascination and causes people to see things differently, seeing things in their physical environment differently. It sounds strange to people who have not experienced this. It sounds off the wall, off the scale, off the charts. What do you mean? I really feel that only people who have gone through this sort of psychological grooming or being targeted and have been close to a psychopath will really know what this is. In other words, their ability, the way that they use their body in environments to take shape and to sort of change the energy in the room. And even in places where nothing exists, they will take that space and put something in it through a sort of energetic projection, if you will. A table no longer just becomes a table. They have a way to sort of give a visual or a vision for what's going to be on that table, and all of a sudden you kind of see it in your mind's eye, if you will. Using a lot of this sort of imagination faculty, which a lot of people don't use on a day-to-day basis in that sort of relationship setting, which then becomes sort of thrust open. It is thinking along the lines of the psychopath. In other words, you're becoming formatted according to their blueprint and their value system. And oftentimes it gets people to be aroused by something unethical. Aroused in business by something unethical, when hitherto you've got a stellar reputation, you've never done anything against your company, your family, your friend, your property. Next thing you know, you're tapping into your child's college savings and you're using it for something that wasn't intended for. You're tapping into your 401k. You're missing your work. You're becoming distracted. You're violating certain boundaries, societal norms, because of this high risk behavior. The psychopath, believe it or not, contrary to what you might see, they struggle with boredom. They will engage in high risk behavior to belay this, and oftentimes they will take others who are very pristine, even perfectionists, people who pride themselves on specific elements of their life or what they've accomplished, and cause them to loosen the grip and let go of this, particularly in the role of identity. Your I am, who you are, who you are, as a composite of your being. So if you feel like there is something within you that, was not there in a strong way, realize it is. Your self-limiting beliefs oftentimes can be founded for a lot of people on a limited manner. In other words, you believe, that nothing will ever happen. So negative self-limiting beliefs, which mean it takes you away from that awareness that you've got to be cautious. Don't be so careful. Don't be so worried. You're so you're so busy at work all the time. You're always taking care of other people. Why don't you do this for you? All these little sort of coaxings that get you to violate your own standards and integrity, particularly that which are your own personal backbone, and then distort it and pervert it, so then one becomes then aroused by that which can be unethical, not intended for that use, becoming sexually aroused by certain inanimate objects, or people that you should not be, you're not attracted to or aroused by. I'll just leave it at that. So doing, and then it becomes sickening to you, but for the psychopath, they're putting it under a guise of it's okay, and this is where you should grow. This is in the name of love. And then little do you know that they're not only doing this to you, they're doing this to other people. And oftentimes, because of the way that a psychopath is wired, they don't really relate to specific long-range goals. In other words, really working for a cause. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about working for a mission. They don't care about having, a certain aspect in business, because if it might take a while, they're going to take the route where they're going to get the accolades, the income, or what have you, and take others who will be as stepping stones to get there. And one's self-limiting beliefs need to be understood that caused you to be open or open for too long to this person or situation because you had either taken something for granted, or they painted something in front of you that caused your thought patterns to become skewed, abnormal, and you didn't realize what you were toying with, or how you were being toyed with, really. You have to give yourself and let yourself off the hook a little bit, no matter how terrifying it is to undergo this sort of brainwashing and gaslighting, particularly as it capitalizes on your self-limiting beliefs, or what are your needs, which become your vulnerabilities. And becoming aware of those beliefs gives you sense to your own operating system. The scary part is that a psychopath, a female psychopath in particular, will really go into, in men, that self-limiting belief category, which a lot of men don't want to feel the limitation, especially when it's at the hands of this woman. I will I will go all out. I will stick my neck out. I will put this and this on the line for you, to show, how important you are to me. They might have sort of uncovertly demanded this of you. It can be very, very scary when one finds that they're no longer working according to their gut, that they have then become disconnected to that common sense, simple decision-making process, which hitherto you have been able to live and guide your life successfully by. So the self-limiting beliefs can not only be, the negative. It can be based on a degree of your positivity, which they will then try to rip from you. So if you have felt in the course of your relationship that certain pride, dignity, values, particularly that which are the intangible, like your reputation, which have, taken years to develop, that they have a pre-calculated and predetermined sense of taking that and removing that away from you to leave you in shock, confusion, dismay and oftentimes terror and horror. How could you have done this? Physiologically, most men aren't aware that a female could do something of this capacity, or a specific type of male. I can't believe you would do this, is usually the shock, and then the deer in headlights, the fawn moment of disbelief, which can then send a lot of people into a series of really like a shock or post-traumatic stress syndrome, where they become very afraid to act. They don't trust themselves in any ounce or sense of the word. They've lost their rudder emotionally to navigate. They will take that rudder out. They will take the wind out. They will take the compass out. They will take the environment and the way that you relate to it out. So everything that you have guided can be removed and is fodder for their system, their psychopathic thought system, and the way that they think. Anyone who has understood healing from a psychopath will unequivocally say to stop thinking like a psychopath, because there becomes, physiologically a mirroring, of them while you're with these people. In other words, meaning through your own wiring, you do have something which are called the mirror neurons or the empathy neurons, which then cause people who experience and have empathy to feel for others, such as, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, I didn't mean to hurt you, I didn't mean to break that, I didn't mean to take your opportunity away. People have a natural sense of when they've violated or hurt somebody, a tinge of remorse, sorrow, apology, those sort of things. So the psychopath does not feel this at all. They do not feel this at all. It's not part of their emotional repertoire. It ain't a language that they speak. It's a language that they may mimic. And it is very oftentimes shocking to even fathom the aspect or the concept that someone could be so different and so cruel isn't even the word, really toying with life or death matters. Somebody's livelihood, somebody's vision for their future, their plans, getting a house together, getting married, getting a car, getting a sofa, having children, all these things which are usually for the people who have made a commitment. It can be very overwhelming when you've had you've gone those steps with this person to find out they don't possess any of those qualities, despite the fact that they carry on, and even when exposed, they will continue and then kind of still try to, well, don't you still want to do this and this? It's just appalling. And for the people who don't know the severity, they might keep on with this individual. And then when self-limiting beliefs really then become exposed and really become not only furthermore expressed, but become furthermore enveloping of the person. They are then living, by the negative to try to remove that, improve something to themselves or this person, and a true addiction to something very upsetting and destructive and damaging is taking place. And so it really is difficult to pull oneself away, particularly though understanding what are the self-limiting beliefs that were played upon in the beginning of the relationship. And not only on a need basis, in other words, I was lonely and then this person came along, I needed I needed someone to, in my life to do these things with, and then this person came along. So there's usually a need, a void. It is important to understand that need and that void, and then how that person kind of came in under the radar and began to satisfy those, but then furthermore break you down in order to really get in and then reroute and kind of restructure thinking patterns, particularly that of values, and then capitalizing on your self-limiting beliefs, which instead of you thought you were growing, you're actually limiting yourself and getting further away from the goal with which you thought you were working for and living towards. It becomes, and then it's furthermore even more terrifying when people then feel that they have then become a person which is contradictory to who they are. So that becomes a real psychological crossroads, and it's very important that you then back off once you become aware of these and these weak spots that weren't, which then have been exposed to you, that the psychopath has dived, and then opened and caused you then to violate your own boundaries and standards in very real and very, I don't want to say, everyday, it affects one on an everyday basis is what I'm trying to advise you of. And so when this sort of psychological hijacking has taken place, realize that this is just due to the chemistry which has been invoked, which has been aroused within. It is, I liken it to a beaker in a chemistry lab. The scientist, the teacher who's saying, don't put, this powder and this powder together because it's gonna overflow the beaker and we're gonna have bubbles over everywhere and we're not gonna be able to clean it up. And then the psychopath says, but that's exactly what we want. We want something that we can't clean up. That's what science is about. And then the degree to which they then are persuasive and sort of, I want to say, hypnotizing almost of others. The psychopathic gaze, the way that they use their body, their vision, they don't have the same, situation going on in the prefrontal cortex in terms of judgment. They don't have the same judgment capacities and faculties that someone who is healthy does. So their judgment system is off. Their long-range ability to learn from mistakes and then readjust is off. So that's why you see these, you see them coming back as if they haven't done anything wrong. I can't believe we just had that fight. I can't believe we just did all that. And here, you're brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, and you're like, okay, do you want to go out for lunch today? This just does not make sense. It's because the psychopath does not learn. They do not feel that they have done anything wrong. They don't see how they have violated. All that they understand is that they can do things, quote unquote, that other people can, that sets them apart from others, which makes them very desirable and wealthy or whatever it is, attractive, and it gives them the ability to have these multiple lives, multiple relationships. So look at and really embrace your values. Get back in touch. Really resensitize yourself. I value loyalty. I value truth. I value safety. I value serenity. I value my goals, but I don't value the adventureness that pushes me to the edge, that is violatory in nature, that ain't exciting for me anymore. That ain't what I'm living for. That's not the fuel that runs my engine. That's not what I am looking for. It's okay to speak that to yourself. You really need to develop that internal, what they call internal dialogue or internal self-talk, which is to back yourself down from the excitement, the enthrallment, the hyper arousal that comes with the psychopath. And oftentimes that hyper arousal will begin to run the show, and people are then allowing their bodies to run the show versus being aligned with their values. Become very attuned and aware to what you gave up and how this person got in the cracks. How did they get in under the door, the cracks in the window, what have you, and how did they exploit? If you have felt exploited, do not be embarrassed. This is a true opportunity for you to become more aware of and more appreciative of yourself and your ability to bounce back and allow your values actually to thrive and become more clear as you understand how they became skewed and misunderstood and perverted and distorted by this individual in order to take that which really is your backbone away from you and to show you, they think that they are the one, but you can bounce back. Live closer to heart, live closer to that internal dialogue, which I value safety. I have family values. I have values in business. I value, true ingenuity. I value my own problem-solving abilities. I value my manhood. I value my masculine side. I value my feminine side. I value my sensitivity or my heart. And furthermore, now that I know what I have, after what I've given, I'm going to protect. And I'm going to become more mindful of how this is expressed. And then re-erect those boundaries and standards and enforce it no matter what comes your way. And definitely go no contact. Clear your phone, your garage, your attic, your basement, your living room, whatever it is, your glove box with their planted oftentimes, I call it almost their calling card, the strange things that they would leave and plant in the environment to distort your thinking. Don't fall for this. Don't fall for the psychopathic calling card. This is what they do. They break people down. They get them into a sort of hyper-vigilant, hyper-aroused state, back off of it, and know that you will become more balanced once you become more at peace and feel more secure. So begin to confirm, I call them the astralmations, those commands you give to yourself. I am safe. I am strong. I am protected. I am wise. I am focused. And then affirm those and become very, very aware of how those positive states feel within you, and become very aware of what your beliefs are and your mindset, so those cannot be corrupted. No matter how seductive, no matter how they have swept you off your feet before, never again. Your feet are planted. You have got the gravity and connection within yourself, and really become aware of your lessons learned. And know that this is going to make you a better person, and don't interpret it as a fault. Realize that this experience is going to prove and alchemize in your favor. It's going to take time, but protect those values that are yours, your own, and know that oftentimes you are targeted because you possess these values that a psychopath cannot